All right, so let's finish up Sunset Boulevard. This is the crucial thing about Sunset Boulevard is a lot of people watch Sunset Boulevard and I think they think it's the story of an old crazy lady. And whenever people are like, that person in the movie is crazy, what they mean is that person's crazy, but I'm not crazy. I'm a sane person. That person's nuts. But Norma Desmond's problems are all of our problems. Norma Desmond is us. We're just like her. Why? Because Norma Desmond wants to live in a fantasy world. She wants to live in a world. She knows it's not real, but she wants to live in a fantasy world of things. And she has all these people to support her, right? All these like Betty, who didn't want to hear about Joe's lifestyle. Joe supported her fantasy up until he didn't. Max supports her fantasy until the end. DeMille kind of supports her fantasy because he won't come right out and be like, Norma, we're not making a movie. He tries to tell her, he tries to be gentle, but he ultimately ends up just confirming her beliefs. The police and the news all go along with this thing. Well, that's a good way to get her downstairs. They're all encouraging her to live in a kind of fantasy land. But the crucial thing is that she's like, we're gonna make, and she wants to live in this total fantasy land. We'll make another picture and another picture and another. That's what Marvel does, right? That every movie ends with an advertisement for the next movie. She's us. Most people in America also want to live in a fantasy land. They go to the movies so they can live in a fantasy land. You get to be be in the dark for 2 hours and you want to be a Marvel Comics character. I mean, I get it. I want to be a Marvel comic character too. I want to be Professor Xavier. But the people, movies aren't real. Characters aren't real in these things, but you want to believe it so bad, and you spend so much of your time imagining yourself in those worlds that essentially you're just like Norma Desmond. And I'm going to say something larger and crazier right now, and this is a ridiculous thing to say, but Black Lives Matter and like Colin, is it Kaepernick or Kaepernick? I can never remember. But like the protests, Black Lives Matter and the related protests are like Joe Gillis at the end of this movie. And America is like Norma Desmond. Why? Because a lot of Americans want to believe in, just like Norma Desmond, in a big fantasy. America is this great land of freedom and truth and justice and liberty and equality, and it's the greatest nation on earth, and these kinds of things. Even though on some level they must know that like the country was built by the genocide of the Native Americans, and it was built by the slaves that built the country, and that a lot of the wars people go to, because when soldiers that go off to war, they need to believe that it has a good reason. But like, what if it doesn't? That Joe Gillis is like Black Lives Matter, saying, listen, here's the truth about America, and most Americans, like Norma Desmond, don't want to hear it. They want to believe that it's the greatest country on earth, and they don't want to look at the statistics of where America stands in terms of education nationally, or freedom of the press nationally, or right, there's all these statistics you can look at, literacy and math skills and technology, and like America's behind on a lot of things, but people just go to these rallies and they go, we're number one, we're number one. They're like Norma Desmond. They want to live in a fantasy land and not think about reality, which is a scary, disturbing, dark place. So that us, and we're all Norma Desmond. We all want to live in some kind of fantasy land a lot of the time. And when people try to tell us it's not real, we don't want to hear it. And we just go back into thinking about it. And that's really what makes Sunset Boulevard interesting. It's not a movie about one crazy old lady. It's a movie about Hollywood and how badly Hollywood treats women in order to make these big fantasy products that we all want to live in. And those fantasy products are all those movies that we wish were real and spend all of our time thinking about when there's a reality out there that maybe we should be paying attention to. But also that news is part of that entertainment option that is there to keep us interested and invested in these stories that are based off of reality, or probably not what we should be paying attention to. There's probably other things we should be doing rather than some of the dumb news stories about, the salacious ones that, this woman murdered all of her kids and why did she do it? Is that really news? It doesn't help me make decisions. It doesn't tell me who to vote for, and it doesn't tell me how to protect myself. It's not, right? It's supposed to be, news should be giving me information I need to make good decisions. I'm not sure that this lady, an interview with the second grade, classmate of a woman who put her kids in the trunk of a car and pushed the car in the river is really news, but news covers it. Why? Because people are entertained by those stories and they want to watch them. So we're all of us, Norma Desmond. Because all human beings, really, I don't know all human beings, but an awful lot of people really want to live in a fantasy land. And they don't want someone like Joe Gillis or Black Lives Matter to shake them out of it by telling them the truth about what's really going on in America. Okay. I think I did a good job on that. All right, guys. That was Sunset Boulevard. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys for the next movie, Mulholland Drive, which will conclude Unit 3.